Hey there, Dr. Taylor Pascal with Pascal Chiropractic in San Jose, California. I wanted to take a minute to talk about what we're seeing in the NFL with all of these injuries. Those of you that know me know how big of a 49er fan I am, and my wife, Dr. Michelle, is. We love going to the games. That's not an option this year, but we're super glad that football's back on TV. What we are seeing is a ton of injuries, not just with the 49ers, who did have a disproportionate amount of injuries this past weekend, but we're seeing serious injuries, ACLs, high ankle sprains, stuff like that all over the league. So I want to talk about why we're seeing that and what the league can do to avoid that going forward. Let's get right into it. We saw this early on before the season had even began, that a lot of players, especially those speedy players like wide receivers that need to be explosive and fast, a lot of soft tissue injuries. So we've had people with calf issues, hamstring issues. Now this is a serious problem, especially in those explosive positions. If you got a wide receiver with a hamstring issue, there's just no way that they're going to be able to cut and move and run at full speed. Now, especially after this Niner game this weekend and going into play the New York Giants next week on the same turf in the Meadowlands, the 49ers have said that there have been some issues with the field. We saw that a Steeler player had gotten a similar injury the previous week. But I think there's something else going on outside of conditions of the turf. Yes, maybe it wasn't broken in the way it's supposed to, but I think the biggest thing here is deconditioning. Okay, this was a unique season. We know we're just coming, hopefully, out of COVID times, getting some sports back, but a lot of these players have not been doing what they're used to as far as off-season routine. So I think deconditioning is the biggest reason why we're seeing some of these soft tissue injuries early and now going more into joint and ligament injuries like the ACL and high ankle sprains and whatnot. Football is a sport that it's really hard to get ready for. It's really hard to condition the body for the speed, the effort, and the forces that the body experiences on the football field. So typically they have the off-season training camps, OTAs, and the players kind of go through a progression. You start off with your strength and conditioning workouts, and you kind of progress into more football-specific movements. They might start working out with helmets and then go to shoulder pads and then full pads when they're starting to get that contact. So that progression is super important. We see that going through training camp into the preseason and into the regular season. So not only is the preseason a time when the coaches can get a better look at the guys on the depth chart, but it's also super important for the players, even the veteran ones, to get their bodies ready for the season. So when we don't have that ramp up, we're getting the body ready in football shape, we're seeing issues coming from that right now. So you don't just need to be strong and fast and physically fit. Your body has to be able to take on these huge forces, often in awkward positions. You know, people are getting tackled, players get tangled up with each other, and it's important to be able to recover quickly. When we have an injury to a joint or a ligament like an ACL or a high ankle sprain, what happens when we're in that awkward position, before the forces ever go into the joint or the ligaments, that neuromuscular coordination of the body should activate muscles to pull the body out of those awkward positions before the forces ever get into the ankle or the joint. Now that's something that takes work by the body. It needs to be conditioned. It needs to be ready to do this so that when we're in those awkward positions, the body can adapt and pull out of it. Well, we're seeing that a lot of the players don't quite have that now, and yes, we might say there have been some freak injuries, but the fact that we're seeing so many of them leads me to believe that not having the typical structure of OTAs, not having the preseason, not ramping up training to get into the regular season like we are in now is a negative factor that's contributing to so many of these big name players getting injured and potentially losing them for the rest of the season. If we know that these professional athletes who are in some cases in the prime of their career, if we know that deconditioning can potentially play a big role in them getting injured, we can kind of relate that to how we take care of our body and how we train for a goal, right? So if we've been particularly sedentary, we don't just want to go from 0 to 100 and throw the body into an activity that might be more of an end goal type thing. So if our goal is to run a marathon, we're not going to start running a marathon as our training, right? We're going to start at a lower mileage that we're more comfortable with, that we know the body can handle without getting injured. And we're going to ramp up that mileage, ramp up our time until we get to that full goal, in this case, the marathon. What we see in professional athletes and in the regular people like you and I is that if we try to push ourselves too much, too early, then we set ourselves up for injury and other problems, and that can take us out of the game completely. So what we want to do is make sure that we're gradually ramping up our activity so that we can give our body time to be physically prepared to do more activity. Now, I'll mention that rest is one of the most important parts of a workout routine. It's one thing to go and pump weights and do our sprints, but if we're not giving the body time to rest and recover in between, then we're going to set ourselves up for injury and not be able to train or exercise and stay healthy the way we would like. Hopefully, we can learn something from what's going on in the NFL, and we can apply that to our lives in reaching our goals. I really hope that all those players that got hurt over the past couple weekends are able to heal up and get back to full speed, whether that's this season or next season. You never want to see people get injured no matter what team they're on, and we want to see them successful and have good careers. And so let's learn from that, and let's continue to enjoy watching football, and let's keep taking care of ourselves as well. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Taylor Pascal. We'll talk to you soon.